Welcome to the Always Ask videocast. I'm your host, Amanda Busby, the lifestyle expert. For over a decade, I have been working with people to develop their style, organize the chaos, and create impactful experiences that help them live a more intentional and impactful life. With each episode, I am on a mission to bring you the most influential minds, people that have inspired and impacted my life on my own self-discovery journey around the globe. Together, we will shake up everything you thought you knew and help you to engage in life in a completely different way. Always ask, connecting people, creating experience, curating events. Enjoy the show. All right, welcome everybody to Always Ask. I'm your host, Amanda Busby, and today we are here with Bec Tait. And I am beyond excited for you all to meet her. Beck is an intuitive coach and a guide, and she has this beautiful way of using this intuitive gift that she has, along with her really nurturing, warm presence to really guide people through times in their life that are really challenging, times where they're stuck and they don't know how to get out. And she blends this really beautiful way of sort of intuitive spiritual advice with practical advice to really help you, get through things that are really difficult in your life. So welcome back. I'm so happy to have you.
Thank you, Amanda. What a beautiful intro. It's been a fast year.
Yeah.
I always say the days are long, but the year has been short.
It does feel like that. It absolutely does. Yeah. And if you could tell, obviously, Beck's accent, she is from Australia. She's in Sydney right now. So it's your morning there, right? And it's my afternoon. So a little bit different with the time change.
Yeah, you can definitely spot the Australian twang. It definitely stands out. Yeah. And it follows me like my shadow wherever I go.
Well, you have a beautiful accent, though. Not all Aussie accents are that pretty. But yours is very.
When I get tired, the Queensland twang does.
Yep, that is the thing. And we met, Bec and I met, it was an event that Christine Hassler and Stef Stefanos, they were hosting for the new year. And they hired me to come in and do the event planning for this workshop and retreat because I was living in Australia for a few months then. And it was such divine timing being at that event for many reasons for me, and such a pleasure working with them. But such a hidden gem was meeting you, Beck. It was, I saw you actually right away when I walked in, and I was, running around kind of organizing the event and all the people coming in. And I was right away drawn to you, like, who is this? I don't know. I feel like there was some energy right away that drew us to each other.
Yeah, and I remember it was really, really hot that day.
It was so hot.
It was Brisbane in Queensland, and yes. For those in the Northern Hemisphere that are watching this, it is in quite a warm part of Australia, and January is quite a steamy part of the year, but it was a very unnaturally hot and humid day, and the space that we were in, this is pre-COVID as well, where there was no physical distancing.
No.
And we were all in quite, because of the excitement of Christine and Steph being there. People had also flown up from Sydney and Melbourne, driven all from rural parts of Queensland as well to come to the event. And you had done such an amazing job of pulling it all together as well. And it's such a great space, but we just were all in this kind of
a lot of energy.
It was a lot of energy. It was.
Yeah.
And I was there kind of as a space holder, sort of under the radar there, as not impersonating, but just sort of gently coming in and
supporting.
As support, as I do.
Yeah. And it was amazing meeting you, and sort of in that time in my life, I was going through such a big shift and transition being in Australia and then kind of transitioning back to the US and really releasing some old relationships and old patterns and old ways of being. I was sort of coming into this, new version of myself in this new season. And it was just complete divine timing that, we were dropped in each other's lives at that point. And you've just been such an amazing support and guide and have taught me so much going through the transition. So, I know you very well. I know you very, very well. You've become such a great friend and support, but tell everyone a little bit more about kind of who you are and what you do. Obviously we could do episodes on that. Beck has had 9 lives, I think, and she's been so strong and amazing through it, but give us a little window into your life and kind of how you ended up.
It is such an epic story because I've been here for over 4 decades. So I'll try and give the trailer of the movie. So for me, it's one of those stories where my intuition has been with me since birth. And we've discussed that. I am from Australia and I grew up here and I grew up in Queensland. And, my parents did kind of move up and down the east coast of Australia.
Yeah.
And I grew up in just suburbia, very middle class. My parents weren't religious. They weren't atheists. They were just really average, everyday Australians.
Yeah.
And I went to public school, just
normal. all the normal things.
I suppose what wasn't average is that my father did work for a major television network.
Oh.
So I did grow up with, kind of celebrities, like, growing up in.
Didn't know that
side of things. No, that's a little Beck fact there. Yes. So that was probably a big difference, but it was a very grounded childhood there.
Yeah.
So I wasn't grown up in this kind of like hippie 70s vibe or anything like that.
Yeah.
And for me, my intuition, I just thought everybody had it. I thought everybody could speak to angels, or everybody just had, guides, access. Everybody had it, but you just didn't talk about it. And it was just social etiquette. And I grew up with that, and it wasn't until I was in my 20s. You do the rite of passage like you do in Oz, and you go overseas, you go to London, you travel, and I was in Ireland. And I was spending a lot of time, in Ireland, and I was with the Druids Council and spending a lot of time with that Celtic culture. And people were flying from all over the corners of the world and investing a lot of time and resources in learning frameworks and rites of passage in how to connect to the divine, how to connect to source, how to learn, how to channel, how to learn to connect with their intuition.
Right.
And even doing like really quite progressive practices back then, like ayahuasca and journeys and things like that, which I've always been I've never needed to kind of go to that level to have those experiences.
Right. They were going deep. They were like, we want to do our thing.
Right in there and with the shamanic journeying.
Yeah.
And like this is something that's just been like breath work to me, like being able to breathe. And that's when I had a whole new appreciation. And being able to read for other people, so to speak, is the term that is being able to do medium work. And that back in my 20s, I didn't have the maturity, I didn't have the human experience. So of course back then I would use things like tarot cards and things, because as a 20-year-old it is very intimidating, to sit down and be able to give people guidance and stuff like that when you don't. Like, I mean, at 20, I must admit, I look like I was in my 40s then. I had that kind of age to me then.
You had that soul that was very, very mature.
Yeah,
and I think always to come into the world with that gift, right?
Yeah. And my mum used to be quite embarrassed when she used to, people over for, cups of tea and stuff when I was a child, and I would come out at the age of 3 and tell people about their past lives and then run off. So, it was a bit horrifying for mum when she was having a Tupperware and Avon parties to have a child that would do that. That wasn't the kind of the good treat that you would like in suburban Brisbane. So.
Oh, that is so funny, because I could just picture that so clearly, like, very just sort of normal, average, loving family, like you explained. But then, this little 3-year-old walks out and is all of a sudden, telling people things about their life that they don't know. I just can't imagine. I can't imagine.
It was, it caused my mother great embarrassment there. And so that's when I sort of learned, it's something you don't talk about.
That's what I was going to say. I wonder then for you, I mean, I put myself in your shoes. I would, that kind of embarrassment, I think you'd learn to tone it down or sort of like hide it at times, right?
But that's the same as like learning, like when you're a child, you don't put your shoes on the table because that's not socially appropriate. So it's very, very similar. So just as your parents will shout at you for not putting your shoes on your table, you get shouted at for not telling people that their late Aunt Susie has got a message for.
I love how you put them on the same page. I understand.
Put them on the same page, It was like, Beck, don't put your shoes on the table. Beck, don't tell our neighbour that her Aunt Susie has got a message for her. Right,
okay. And eat your vegetables, please.
Yeah, and eat your veggies. So,
wow.
So I did have, amazing guides that guided me through that. And so that was, a learning experience there.
Yes.
That was where, but it was in my 20s that I learned that. And then with that big aha moment came a very big gratitude and then this huge sense of responsibility. Quite a young age. I was only 25 at this stage.
Wow.
And very big calling to come home to Australia, which I did. I pretty much got on a plane, came back to Australia and travelled up the east coast of Queensland. Which was in a great deal of drought at the time. There was even some 5-year-olds that had never, ever seen rain.
Wow.
And I spent time in those communities doing, which was, you've got to go back. This is in just early 2000.
Right.
Not where we are now 20 years later, where I was in community halls holding meditation nights, teaching people to connect with source, angelic realm. And it like really was well received.
Right. But very ahead of the time then, right? Like that was pretty taboo then, whereas now we have social media, we have things where it's so widely.
I don't even think Gmail was around back then.
You what?
I was on Hotmail back then. So
I remember Hotmail.
An idea of where we were from a technological point of view.
Yes.
So the events were promoted with like flyers in the local newsagent.
Oh my God, I love it. No Facebook groups, no social media, actual flyers on. Yeah.
Like this is how it was promoted. And I would do a free meditation night and local farmers were there and it was relief, and we really dropped the suicide rate, particularly in male youth at that time. And it was a really magical time. And then I met the father of my 2 beautiful children. And that's when I decided to hit the mute button on gifts and have a very human experience. And I dove right into marriage and motherhood.
Wow.
And I really just had a very human experience for close to a decade, actually just over a decade. And I worked in financial services and built
totally opposite from.
I went, phew,
the spiritual meditation world, to financial services. Very, very opposite.
Very, very different. But gifts are still there.
Right.
So that intuition, I always say to people, when you hit the mute button on the TV, the subtitles are still there. So even though you don't hear in full surround sound, and you still can see some sort of picture, and you still see the subtitles. They still come there.
I was going to ask that too. Yeah. So do you still feel it and hear it? And you do. And how do you choose to hit the mute? Like, was that a conscious choice at that point of I'm done? I don't want this responsibility. Was it, did you feel called that way? Were you angry about the gifts? Like, what caused you to make that choice? It's a big decision, I would imagine.
I knew.
That's a tough question, I'm guessing.
For me to enter into the marriage required me to hit the mute button. And I knew that those beautiful souls wanted me as their mama. And I wanted a human experience.
Right.
Have that. I wanted to have that this lifetime. I actually use the word hindsight, and looking back in hindsight.
I love that, because so often we look back and we are not kind. So I really like it.
It took me a few years to get to hindsight. I was in judgment for a long time. And looking back on hindsight, like, it's just enabled me to be able to, like, I'm an empath.
Yes.
But my depth of empathy now, and also when guidance comes through, it has really enabled me to combine both insight and intelligence as well. So if I'm working with someone, and particularly when I'm coaching on complex, when I'm working with CEOs or people that are working on small business, and I'm being shown different financial situations or complex business plans,
right,
it is so much easier to understand when I've spent 12 years working for, 4 of the largest Australian banks. Like, of course, that's just normal. Where if I had sat on a mountain meditating and being in that energetic space for over a decade, would I have had that depth of understanding? No. But when I've been in the trenches of human experience for 15 odd years,
you get it.
Both that insight and that intelligence, and to have that combination, I have so much gratitude. Was it easy? Absolutely not.
No.
But can I speak to a mother who's sobbing because she has not slept in over 3 months because her child isn't sleeping? Do I understand that? Yes.
Right.
Do I understand those challenges? Do I have full empathy and compassion? Absolutely. Because I've been and you can't do that if I hadn't have hit the mute button. Right.
And that is true. You and I, relate on a lot of similarities and things we've gone through, and that's what connects you. That's what connects you. So that makes a lot of sense.
Do I understand what it's like to have a broken heart? Absolutely.
Yes.
Do I understand what it's like to navigate out of, a relationship that's broken down? Yes. Do I understand what it's like to be a single parent? Yes. Right. All of those things from hitting the mute button.
Right.
Do I know what it's like to come back into a gift, to rediscover a gift? Yes. And that was a big learning for me too, because I had the experience of watching all these people awaken and something that I understood. But once I hit the mute button and then it came back on, I had a different appreciation for it as well.
Well, and I love that, because I think too, now having had to sort of, not start over, but relearn some things, right? And bringing your gift out, and, now having this be primarily what you do is intuitive coaching. You're able to then, I would imagine, walk people through it more, right? Like come to their level of like, hey, how do I meditate? How do I How do I hear myself? How do I, and because you've sort of had to rewire that in yourself, I would imagine you could speak to it even more clearly.
Yeah, and it's the one of the biggest questions I get is in regards to meditation. It's like, oh, I'm meditating more, and I go, just for a moment, I want you to, you're familiar with my reframes, right?
So I have to say, Beck, you are the like queen of reframes. I tell her that all the time. I'm like, this needs to be under, like, just ask Beck, the queen of reframes. She has helped me kind of like look a different spotlight on situations in my life and totally flip it. And my mindset shifts. It's all different. Yeah, you're the best. You're the best at reframing.
So the reframe or the analogy I always get in regards to meditation is this. For someone that's never meditated or that's new to meditation, when you first start, you just start a little bit. And I always recommend just start with a minute or 2 minutes a day.
Right.
And the equivalent is, if you have never jogged before, if you have never run before, you would not grab your Nikes or your Adidas or your sneakers or your sandals or your Skechers or whatever you call them. You would not put them on and go and run the Boston Marathon.
I love this analogy. Yep.
It is exactly the same. So it's great, and particularly this time of year when we're all thinking about our intentions.
Right.
And meditation is great and it's wonderful to do. However, if you are a highly charged person, you are if you're a pocket rocket, if you're someone that really loves getting stuff done, if you're
I'm such a doer, right? A generator.
If you're a thinker, then slowing yourself down is often not the best format for you as well.
Right.
Walking meditations are most likely a better format for you. Like, there's a different type for everybody. Meditation is not a one size fits all.
Right.
Definitely not that. I could talk a whole episode on meditation.
I sense another episode coming. We'll have to have back every week.
But when but going back to the mute button and coming out of it, yes. Going through that experience and the coming out of it, it's enabled me to provide a much more in-depth level of support and a deeper degree of coaching. And again, I just keep coming back to that word, to support. And you've experienced a session with me and coaching with me. It's not just, I'll go on a call with Beck for an hour and then I'll see her in a week or 2 months. But it's that whole experience of, when you get triggered, I'm there. I'm a text away. I'm a phone call away. It's something I'm very, very passionate about. I don't leave people hanging. And with me as well, doesn't matter what time zone I'm in, if one of your guides sense that you need support, they will gently wake me up, and there's that message on the other end of the phone.
We have had that a few times where, something's going on and she will feel me from the other end of the world and send me a message, hey, this is what I feel like you need to hear. And I'm like, oh my gosh, I was just going, such an amazing support.
It's amazing how it works. It's just, I've got one client whose guides speak to her with flamingos.
Oh my gosh, that's kind of cool.
And I will just be out and I will see a flamingo cup, or I'll be at a coffee shop and then suddenly, my sandwich will get served on a flamingo plate, and it's just little things like that will come through as well.
Yeah, and I love to, Beck has become such a beautiful friend, but I know with her clients too, she gives that support. Like, that is something you can count on with her, and working with her, like, it's definitely, she's there, she is there. And that's something so unique that I don't know actually anybody at all that really offer that ongoing. And I think when you're going through big transitions, that's so important to have that consistent support. So,
well, as someone who's gone through stuff myself on a human level, it was what I found was missing. Now, I was lucky because I could go within for myself, and I had guidance I could tap into.
Right.
But I found it really difficult when I was seeing, we've all seen therapists, we've all seen counselors, we've all seen psychologists. The two things that I found very limiting for my own healing was this, when they looked at the clock.
Yeah, because you're right about to get into something typically.
You're just unpacking stuff and they're like, well, that's really great. I just need you to hold it there. And then we're going to come back to that next session. And you're like,
it is the worst. And I get it. We have time constraints. But
all this courage to get there, which is why I never put a time limit on when I'm working with, because when you're working with guidance as well, like it can come in at any time.
Right.
So it's one of those things I say to people, look, allow between 1.5 to 2 hours, because it just so you can naturally have that space.
Yeah.
It's not like it's going to last for 6 hours. Like we're
a human. We need to live in some construct of time and structure. Right. Yeah.
And also it's that follow-up support is to make sure that you know that it's supported afterwards, because what happens, and you've experienced this as well, you get off the phone and then you go to sleep and you wake up in the morning and you go, oh, I forgot to ask this.
Yep.
Or, oh, this has triggered this, or made me think of this, or, oh, this has landed here, or, I don't want to wait a week or a month, or you don't want to feel just cut of happened. And that was what I found was missing when I was going through my journey, which is why when I sat down and designed what I wanted to do and be of service, I was like, this is what I'm going to do. And I have certainly been doing this now for a number of years. Yeah. And it has brought me a great deal of joy. And I've seen people just go through such a transformative state, and it's been magical.
Well, and you're just amazing. You're so gifted, again, bringing in the sort of the practical advice and the spiritual and your intuition all in one. And then, that support is huge in the growth. So yeah, it is just amazing. It is just amazing. So before we sort of close, just to end on this, it's 2021. What would you sort of tell people as we're going into this new year? We just came through this massive year of transition and up and down and in between. And, moving into this year, there's a lot of talk around goals and intentions and, patterns and all of this. And, what sort of advice or inspiration or guidance would you give people in going into the year as far as, noticing those patterns and being able to change them, and how to do it and how to keep those intentions,
Yeah, absolutely. That's a really good question. And what I'm being drawn to is something that will resonate with you, because being that this is your space and your audience and you hold it so well, is coming from your skill set and your expertise and how you're amazing at going into a space and looking at complete disorder and just bringing order, and the ability that you have to bring that order in on the practical and the earthly level, but that permeates into people's energetic space as well. Like you are really gifted at the way that you do that, because you're clearing space both, again, as we were discussing, on a pragmatic and the ethereal level there.
Right. Thank you.
Just as you go into people's houses or you've done previously, and they have a junk drawer, every house has a junk drawer, right?
No matter what room. It's like the kitchen has one, the bedroom has one, the laundry room has one.
Kitchen, bedroom, office, every room, kids' room, they all have a junk drawer.
Yes.
January is jam-packed January. There is like we've all hit the ground running. So find a moment between the jam pack, because this drawer is jam packed as well.
The ones that you can't get open, there's like tape in there and I'm stuck in it. Like I can't even open it to organize it.
Clearing the bench so it looks nice when the visitors come over and you chuck everything in. Find a moment to clear the junk drawer. So that's the intention, is to declutter. That's the intention, because the more that you declutter that, the easier it is to roll shut. The easier it's going to be. So if any one of your listeners also listens to Christine Hassler's podcast.
Yes, amazing.
It was a very, very similar guidance that came through. And I'm noticing like the guidance for her audience was a different analogy, where yours is coming in regards to the junk drawer being easy to slide shut, so you can open it, reach in and get anything that you need at any time. Hers was very much that this year is going to be a hike, but there's going to be beautiful views, and just make sure that your backpack's light, you hydrate, right? Yes. The guidance coming through for your audience is to declutter your, I'm tapping to my
she's pointing at her door. She must be.
So it's very much coming through on the visceral, but it is to unpack, clear out, declutter your junk drawer. Now, what that means on the metaphysical is that's your shadow side. Okay. You want to go a little bit deeper here. So excuse me if I'm running over time a little bit, but the message is coming.
I'll allow it. I know the host, so I think you're okay.
So it is to clear out the junk drawer. So declutter it, take out all the things that you don't need anymore. You don't need the weird avocado slicer, because when was the last time you actually used it? Because generally when you
use the knife.
You just cover it, glad wrap, and put it in the fridge. You've never used it, so get rid of it. You don't need the bottle opener anymore because you only buy wine with a screw top. You don't need, have a look at what you actually need in that drawer and either sell, donate, trash.
Yep, absolutely. Yep.
Okay. So clear it out, then fill it up with what brings you joy. What things are there that you want? So that's, if we kind of link it back to what I was saying in regards to the hiking, for those of your listeners that do listen to that. Fill it with stuff that you really like to use. Okay, so put it with cheese knives, so when all your friends come over, you can cut cheese. Or fill it with long teaspoons because you like having smoothies and mixing it around. Fill it with sticky tape. Fill it with scissors because you really can't find scissors anytime that you look for them. Fill it a long-handled lighter, so when you light your candles, you don't like burn the tips of your fingers. Fill it with the things that bring you joy.
And the things that are aligned with, too, when you say that, I think of the things that are aligned with your life now and this year and where you want to go, like on a physical, energetic, spiritual, all of the levels. Like, what do I want to take with me this year? I loved what you said with Christine's podcast too. Like, what do I want in my backpack for this year, you know?
So if you want to have more romance in your life, put something in the drawer that is symbolic to romance. If you want more connection with friends, put something in the drawer that's that. So that's the whole thing. But declutter your junk drawer. So if there's things that, now there's probably another whole podcast on this one as well, but the difference between procrastination and avoidance of tasks as well. There's things that you're procrastinating on. Procrastination has purpose. And between the difference between if you're just avoiding something because of fear, or if there's genuine procrastination. Because procrastination always does have a purpose. And how you tell the difference is, procrastination is when you go to do something and something prevents you from doing it.
Like something's in your way, something gets.
You get an overwhelming exhaustion, or you just you get something just energetically just kind of there's a barrier, where avoidance is you're supposed to do something and then you'll go, oh, I'll just go wash the car, or I'll go.
You're like, anything but that. I will do anything but clean out the junk drawer.
That's where you can tell when there's a difference. And if you're doing avoidance of a task, then there's a fear based, and you're doing yourself a disservice. But when there's genuine procrastination, it always has purpose.
I like that. And kind of going, back to the drawer, whether we're like in the physical organizing or looking at your life on a whole, the emotional, spiritual level, like where in your life are you procrastinating and what's feeling stuck, and looking at that, right, to move through it.
When you do both, you're doing the same.
Say that one more time.
When you do both, you're doing the same. So as you're clearing out your junk drawer, you're actually clearing out your intents.
Yeah, it is energetically releasing all of it, isn't it?
Yeah.
I really love that, because there is so much to leave behind, take out of the backpack.
The other thing I'm also being guided, like there's this huge pressure that January comes along the first week. You've got to set your goals. You've got to set your intentions.
Yeah.
January is so jam-packed. It's jam-packed January. February is fine-tuned February.
January, I love that.
Is declutter. It's really jam-packed. It's going to fine-tune everything in February.
See, she's the queen of the reframe. I love that. Like, you always have these great little things that stick with you. And I resonate with that, because January, there's so much going on. You're like, how could I do this? So
so much this year in particular.
Yeah. I love that.
Beautiful tools out there. It's a tool.
Yeah. Speaking of that, where can people find you, Beck? Because you're
yeah, absolutely. It's I've just recently come out on Instagram, just_us_Beck. And our website, of course, is justaskbeck.com.
I love it. Thank you so much. We have so many more episodes to do, but it was so lovely having you, and just such gorgeous information for the new year.
My absolute pleasure.
Thank you.
Thank you for spending so much time with me on Always Ask. If this was impactful for you, please leave a comment or a review. And if you have any questions, visit amandabusbyinc.com. And until next time, don't forget to always ask.